I think we're live. You hear me? You see me? Check, check, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Sound is good, good. Who do we got here? We got Matt, Daryl, Frank C, Assad, Big D, Trolls, Terry G, the other Matt, Super Lead, Yeti Matsi, Gary Davin, what's up, dude? Good to see you, man. Noise canceling headphones, nice. What's up, Shane, Chris, Frentless Ed, Speaker, what's up, dude? Guitar guy, Jane. Sound clamp is working. Shammy whammy. And Chris. Got Rico B down from AC. So when I left you last, my water heater was broken. Sucks. You don't realize how much you missed having friggin' hot water till you don't have any. And you're like, damn. But literally the day after the show, the next morning, I picked my buddy up and we installed it. Of course, the frickin' one I had, which was the best box of all of them, it had a freaking dent, but like he pointed out, the dent was at the very bottom and away from really anything you could clearly see. It didn't really touch anything inside. He goes, and it's below the tank. He said, so I don't think you're going to have a leaky tank. But it was like, damn, can't even. That was by far, even because I said to my wife, I go, it had a dent at the bottom. She was like, really? She was like, that was the best. That was the best of all. I said, I know. Didn't matter. It was still frickin' dented. I take a picture of it after it was installed. I have a better picture than that. No, maybe not. That might be it. Hold on. I think that's probably it. Yeah, right here. Right there. There it is. All in and working and going again. It's the same as last time. Ream. So I'm sure I will get, in 6 years, reamed again. My wife swears they put a detonator on the side of it 6 months after your warranty expires. So it'll kaboom. Hey, speaking of detonations, we had We had a meteor explode over the Boston area today. I didn't hear it, but a few of my friends heard it. They were like, what the hell? There was that giant explosion. But I didn't know. They said it shook their house, and I was like, nah, didn't feel it. Yeah, Ream's really good at going out right after the right after the friggin' warranty period. But yeah, no, it was a lot cheaper because that. I mean, what do you think for a new water heater? That was I want to say $779. It was more because I remember the last time we got it, it was cheap. It was like $649. It was way up there. It was like, I think $779, something like that. It was much. Remember, it was 6 years ago I got the last one. So I'm thinking, you know, minimum $1,500, but probably more like a couple grand. It's like three times the parts cost or something like that. Yeah, good thing it wasn't a Strat-shaped water heater. Be coming after me. Boy, that's blowing up in their face, huh? Just like that meteor today. It's got gas. Definitely gas. Which gas prices have shot up recently, but it's still cheaper than electric. A lot cheaper, like less than half. Yeah, gas burner, exactly. What's up, Music Sound Gear? What's up, Kev? No, it wasn't, definitely wasn't Bezos' explosion, but, the local meteorologist looked it up, and they see the flash. It showed up on something satellite or radar, and they said the storm that we had didn't have any lightning, and it was way, way too big to be lightning in terms of the flash. So they're like, it definitely was a meteor coming in hot. Electric rates in Mass are pretty very high. My town isn't too bad because I'm on municipal, and the people that have really escaped the electricity, like absolute just bludgeoning recently, where electric prices have really soared. People on municipal electricity are faring like much better. And it's just because my town was one of those towns that, 60 years ago, 70 years ago, had their own power plant. I want to say that power plant was still going when I was a kid, because when we would go to the flea market, we would drive down the highway, and they put the power plant, like, literally right on the edge of town, right on the friggin' highway. Giant smokestack and all these, this big electrical grid system built. And, but eventually that went under, but they still have their own small grid, right? It's just the town instead of being a part of a regional grid. So they're able to buy their electricity like wholesale. I don't know how they do it, but somehow you can buy it from a specific vendor and tap into like off a line. Could have been aliens, could be. What's up, Diving Frog? Peter. You never DIY natural gas appliance? Yeah, you get it. Well, you need pipe dope. I mean, there is a way to do it. It's funny because after we put it in, we were about to, solder in the connectors for the inflow and the outflow for water. And the dude I was with he goes, "You smell gas?" And for a split second I did, and we stopped everything, and we went and we just waited. I said, "No, I got nothing." And we waited, and then he goes, "I bet it was the propane torch." Right? Propane torch was putting out a little bit of propane before it actually lit. It turns on first before it actually starts. Right? It uses a little spark in there to get going. He goes, "Oh, I think it's actually the propane." I said, "Yeah, I think you're right, because we couldn't smell it after that." But it's been good. Definitely need hot water, man. You frickin' miss it. 82. We were kind of hot and cold this week. Not, how were we this past week? Yeah, we had a couple of hot days. We were rainy. And then we had a few hot days, looks like Tuesday and Wednesday. And then we cooled back down for Thursday and yesterday. What's up, Michael D? I've been doing a lot of work up at my father-in-law's place because, there's a lot of little things. It's nothing serious, just like peeling paint. And I said, this would take me 2 seconds to friggin' scrape this, and it would look so much better. And so we're sort of going around and doing that, finding like little things that are very easy to do, low-hanging fruit that you can just, take care of. And it's been going good. But now we're in a friggin' rainy pattern again. It sort of rained today. It's going to friggin' be sort of unsettled until like the middle of the week. So I don't know how much you're going to be getting done. Tomorrow is actually my father-in-law's celebration of life. My wife's been working towards that for a while. In fact, I broke out one of my, I have a laptop. I have a couple of I have literally 3 laptops. But I have this one that doesn't really see much use. It's a really clean install. And I had my wife just give me, we're going to have to do a slideshow. So I said, just give me everything on a jump drive, and let's take this old laptop. Don't bring your nice laptop to this thing. We'll just take this laptop. They just need an HDMI out, and I'll set it up in a loop. So she gave me all the photos today, and it was nice. She numbered them from 1 to, I think it's like 77 or 78 photos, and they're in chronological order. So it starts as when he's a kid and works up until literally one of his last photos. So it should be good. I think we're expecting around 30 people, maybe 35. Yeah, spitting a little snow this morning in Central Mass. Yeah, they say up in the higher elevations, good to have seen a little bit of snow today. I noticed it was friggin' really windy. The wind was it's kind of died down, though, not so windy right now. Yeah, we got one cat down here, right? You know, jump down. So I did notice when I was working on his house the other day, out back, I was sort of scraping a little bit of peeling paint on the trim, door trim, and I was gonna touch it up. I realized, I said, "Oh, he's got a hornet's nest up here." It's like unusual activity. It's like just seems to be a lot of hornets around, and he's got it like a yellow jacket wasp nest up there, definitely up in the corner of the house. So I have quite the arsenal. I'll have to. Which one am I going to go with? I'll take one of my many methods up there from the garage. I have like every friggin' insecticide known to man. I'll take one of them up there and I'll knock it down pretty quickly. Oh, you harbor freight? I need anything? Not right now. Got your black t-shirt on? Okay, just making sure we're all coordinating here. So yeah, just doing a whole bunch of crap up there. You know what I got to do is I got to really mow the lawn, but wait towards. I got to bring my mower up there. His mower he hasn't started it. It hasn't been started in I think over 7 years, and it's just completely gelled. I can spray some some starter fluid into the carburetor. It'll start up and run for a few seconds, but the line's clogged. So I'll just bring my frickin' lawnmower up. I'm not going to sit up there trying to change out the frickin' fuel line on it. My God, what a pain in the ass. Yeah, exactly. Take a flamethrower to it. So, Stefan? Impressed with your new Vola? Oh, yeah, you got a new Vola? Yeah. So I'm playing this one again because I don't have a guitar of the week this week. This is kind of it. Plus, they're still doing they're doing this that case upgrade. They go from a soft case to a hard shell case on a free upgrade for one of these models. And I think it's also available in like a white and a black too. To be honest, I think this finish looks freaking sick. I kind of like it. It's a ash top on a mahogany body. Oh, yeah. Been battling carpenter bees? Yeah, no, they'll freaking eat your house up. Carpenter ants will too. Carpenter ants are freaking brutal. You know, like termites, freaking destroy your property. Yeah, you gonna go electric? Gonna do the that's what a couple of my neighbors have. They do the battery. And they keep 2 or 3 batteries because their yard is big enough. One neighbor has a small yard like mine, but the other guy, he's actually got a pretty big lot. And like literally twice the size of my lot. Maybe a little more. So he's got a lot more lawn. And those electrics, I don't know how long they go, but I don't think it goes like freaking I don't think it does that whole lawn. I think he's got to switch batteries at least once, maybe twice. I could probably do my lawn on one battery, though. The patch is so small, you know. And my yard is my property is mostly taken up by my house. Got a driveway along one side and a little front and a little backyard, and that's it. Use Termidor, yeah. Termidor is pretty much the best. I still have a little bit of Termidor left. I could put down some Termidor. Termidor actually works really well, and it is labeled for Yellow Jackets. And now that I think about it, it is in the house. In other words, they're up in the corner in the gutter, like they're going into the house through the corner of the house somehow. You don't want to drive them in, so you can't use a pesticide that has got a lot of heat. In other words, it makes them very uncomfortable. Makes them whips them up because you'll drive them in the house. Instead, you do something that has like absolutely no heat whatsoever, which is why Termidor is so good for ants, because it's so heatless. It has almost no detection whatsoever. Ants don't detect it, and ants are really good detectors. That's their whole friggin' method of staying alive. They detect danger and warn others. And for most of the sprays, they're going to detect it, but they won't detect Termidor. Termidor is like practically undetectable. But that's its claim to fame. So, yeah, and his Fender lawyer sends cease and desist to Charvel Jackson and Squire. Why not? Yeah, this whole thing is really blown up this week. It's certainly showing no signs of dying down. If anything, I'd say the story is even hotter this week because PRS escalated it. It came out in the news this week that they sent a cease and desist to PRS. That's a pretty major company. It's not like they're going after Chinese clone importers. Seems like they're going after anybody that's, not even an exact copy. Quite frankly, a lot of people would say the Silver Sky is distinctively different than the Strat compared to like a lot of other brands out there that actually use almost like a one-for-one exact Strat body copy. But I think what's going to maybe they just want to test it, because I think that's what's happening here. I think at some point it's going to be tested in court. And they're going to decide whether or not Fender has waited too long and has lost their rights. Now, if you read the language of their loss in 2009 for the trademark, trade dress, whatever you want to call it, right? They went for the trademark. It's pretty damning language that the court used. They basically said, because they've let so many copies proliferate, and last week I think I showed you a video. Was it last week? Yeah, I had that video from 1986, and the guy at my store, we did the walkthrough of my old store that I used to work at, the one in the small store, and he pulls a Hondo off the freaking wall. Looks exactly like a Strat with a pointy headstock. And it's got EV8 stripes on it. Imagine trying to do that now. EV8 should be like, whoa. We own stripes. You can't do stripes. Right? But back then, Hondo literally had one out there. That was May of 1986. That's 40 years ago. If you don't go after someone who's encroaching on your land, after 20 years, they own it. Not because, they did anything. It's because you didn't do anything. You didn't stop it, and they were on the property. Say you own a beachfront or, a waterfront property, and you find out, you don't even know. You find out years later that way down at the end of your property, unbeknownst to you, people have been using it as a cut-through to get to the beach. They've been doing it for like 10, 15 years. They could literally get a prescriptive easement that would force you to allow them to walk over the land. They don't possess the land, but they have an easement. They're allowed to cross it legally. And you can't stop them. And you can't, have them arrested for trespass. They literally get a prescriptive easement. Not because they deserve it, but because you didn't enforce it. And you're like, yeah, but I didn't even know about it. Doesn't matter. Still lose it. Yeah, you know what? Maybe you should have had that on your to-do list. You should have known about it. Right? And that's real property. So they knew about all these copies for all these years. And they let it go on. And now here they're under new management. And they're trying to claw back that which is long gone. Which is any rights to that body shape, because it's been declared, first through that trademark case in 2009, to be invalid. And there was another case, maybe even years before that. So they've had some losses where the court basically said, yeah, it's become so generic at this point, it's literally synonymous for an electric guitar. You've literally become generic. And we can't attribute it to any particular brand. So that's what courts have said about it. I don't know where they think this is going, but I think trying to bring in PRS, presumably for the Silver Sky, but who knows? Maybe they're going for any of the double horned guitars. Seems like they're looking to test this law and see how much, what it has for teeth. Because I assure you, PRS is going to fight back. The Silver Sky's been out for 8 years. So, I think there's definitely, I see, it's about 100 to 1. 100 people say, boo Fender. But there's 1 out of 100 that's like, hey, it's Fender's design. I don't think anyone's disputing that. What they're basically saying is Fender has known that this has been copied for literally the last 50 years. When did the first Strat copies come out? Ibanez had Strat copies in 1974. Right? What are some of the old Strat copies? Was it Tokai? Right? In the 70s, in the 1970s. Then what about all the Charvels that when they weren't owned by Fender, they came out for years? I mean, it's just been... Kramer! Every freaking Kramer in the 80s. All those Kramers were pretty much Strat bodies. Kramer started out with the Strat headstock. And Fender sent them a nastygram saying, hey, the headstock is off limits. Who else had the Fender headstock? Charvel? There's a couple. Jackson? There's a couple of them that Kramer definitely did for a year, for a hot minute. And then Fender sent them a cranky letter. Not into that. But, are they really? Those are dead exact copies. That was in the early 80s. 1981. But the body kept going. They used that body pretty much the rest of the decade. So there's been all these copies for all these years. They have certainly well known about it. And there is a huge body of law out there where the general principle is you snooze, you lose. I know it sounds glib. I know it sounds unfair. But it's basically, pretty common throughout all, right? If you're injured, you have to file for your injury claim within so many years. You can't say 10 years later, oh, by the way, I was injured on your property, or I was injured in a car accident with you. Right? With statute of limitations in a lot of states is like 2 years. A lot of things. If you have some sort of a grievance, you have to bring that grievance between the parties within a certain limited amount of time. And like I said, in the real property cases, even if you don't know about it, but it's just not a hidden fact. Everybody knew that people were cutting through your yard. Everybody knew that fence, right? Or if you had done some sort of investigation, you would know that fence was 10 feet into your property. But you never did. And 25 years went by, or 22 years went by. And you lose. So again, it's not that Fender didn't have rights at some point, but it does feel like it's sort of drifted into public domain, mainly due to their inaction for a very extended period of time. And you can't just wake up one day and say, oh, no, you know what? By the way, yeah, we're going to need you to stop making those guitars. It's like, the fuck are you talking about? It does seem a little crazy. Sure, you got a court to agree you own the copyright, but a lot of them would say you can't enforce it at this point. The enforcement goes away for lack of prosecution. Because, what do they call that? An affirmative right? You have to affirm your right, or you lose it through acquiescence, right? It's what we call a waiver. And maybe through the doctrine of latches. So there's, plenty of funny legal words you can use to... But that is a real thing. And people like, it sounds unfair. It's like, well, they wanted to err on the side of people using and defending their rights. And they'll punish you if you don't. Yeah, exactly. It could very well just be a case of legal precedent. Well, they want to know where they stand, and you can't do it without a genuine... You can't just go to court and get a declaration, right? There has to be a genuine dispute. Or you wouldn't have standing to appear in court, right? There's no genuine dispute here. So I suspect that the very first, thing that would be filed if a lawsuit is filed, and it would have to be in federal court because it's copyright, right? It would be under the federal copyright laws, would be a motion to dismiss for failure to state a claim upon which relief may be granted because they waited too long, and any rights they would have been waived through inaction over a period of, Strack came out in 1954, now it's 2026. A lot of people would say 72 years. You can lose your real estate in 20 years. You can get a prescriptive easement in some states in 10 years. How long before you lose the right to a design? Again, knowing full well it's being copied. And you're just like, we're not worried. Then one day we wake up and go, you know what? We had a meeting. Now we're worried. 72 years later. Even again, if they filed the suit in like 1980, they would have had a much better chance. There were already copies out. But, right, Honda was distributing in the United States in 1985, 1986. Strat copies all day. There's a whole bunch of Strat copies out there. So, it's just weird that, all these years later, that they feel like they have this case. Again, it seems to me like they just want to get a ruling. Like they tried their hand in that German court, and it seemed to work out for them in that jurisdiction. So why not just roll with it, see if you have something, and get a court to say no? What do you got to lose other than, hundreds of thousands of dollars in litigation costs? But I suspect you'd find out pretty quickly, because like I said, the very first stop in any litigation is you don't even have to answer if you successfully file a motion to dismiss. Right. For all kinds, right? Basically, failure to state a claim is what they'd be going for. That as a matter of law, they can't claim the body at this point. That no reasonable jury could hold them accountable at this, right? That no reason would hold that they have rights at this point. And so, you're out. Then they could appeal that, and they have a court say, do they have right? And they look at the whole thing all over again, and they don't do, and then they appeal and affirm in part and reverse in part, and you're going back and you're like dwelling on tiny details, but that's what kind of killed Gibson case against that distributor there out of the UK there. They were going after basically Viacom, but Viacom won. I wonder if they might have lost at the lower court, but it got reversed, and the appellate court basically said, no, you can't go after the Viacom for what a licensee does with an image, right? They have nothing to do with that. And so once Viacom was gone, I would have thought it would have gone away, but it didn't. Wound up going to trial. It's sort of blowing up in Gibson's face. It was a really, really bad trial that settled just 48 hours, maybe 72 hours into the start of that trial. It was a colossal failure, like right out of the gate, with an expert witness who kind of imploded on the stand, and that was all she wrote. So, and a lot of those claims got knocked out with motions to dismiss and motions for summary judgment, because the court basically said, yeah, it's a bit of an overreach, and some of these things, like the one about counterfeiting, they're like, no reasonable jury could ever say that this was counterfeiting. This is, really about the scope of a contract. And so they knocked that out before it even goes to trial. But it didn't matter, because literally on day one of the trial, they found a major math error in Gibson's expert witness, right? They had an economics witness to go up on the stand and talk about the economic impact, right, to set their damages. And the defense was able to show, I think before the guy was even able to testify, they went to sidebar and figured out that there was a major math problem, and therefore all the results were invalid, and therefore what's the guy going to testify if he can't testify about the report, because that's all he's really up there to do, is to testify about his expert report. And he couldn't do that because it was a fucking major flaw in his report. Only the best, only the brightest. And yeah, someone screwed up. And so they wound up excluding that witness from the stand, because now there was no longer a reliable report. So what's he going to stand up there and testify to? Nothing. That was the end of that. So, there's risk in all of this. You think you have a slam dunk case, then you get your ass kicked on the day one of the frickin' trial, and then not so much. We have another cat? Just jumping up there? Yeah. So we'll see what happens, but it looks to me like Fender is they're shoving some money into this. They seem to think that they can scare some people into doing something, but I think, again, there's nothing in the PRS catalog that looks like anything Fender is making, right? It might rhyme, but it doesn't look exactly like it. At the end of the day, everything looks like a freaking guitar. And that came up in the Dean suit, that basically, like, copyright is way, way more diluted in useful articles, right? And so it can be very similar because at the end of the day, it still has to be a guitar. It's the exact copies, I think, that I thought that was what Fender was going for. And then the other thing is they kind of lied. KDH pointed this out, that they basically said, you know, we're not asking, Fender put out a statement basically saying, you know, we're just working with people to, like, help them liquidate their, you know, get rid of their stock on hand and switch to a more favorable design and all this stuff. But that's not what their friggin' cease and desist said. Their cease and desist said you had to destroy everything and you had to provide, like, proof of destruction. So it's just a straight up lie that they said that they were, like, letting them, like, sell off the remaining stock. Or they had a change in plans because from a public relations standpoint, boy, it's really blown up in their face. This really, like I said, it's like 100-to-1 anti-Fender to pro-Fender on this. So, I think they're starting to feel maybe a little bit of the heat. I do get a little curious when I see them, like, post on Facebook, though that seems to have quieted down a little bit, right? Don't want to be quite as vocal when there's a little bit of a controversy brewing. But it seems to me that, you know, half the friggin' posts are, you know, F you, Fender. Screw you. Can't compete. Your guitars suck now. I mean, it's pretty bad, you know. Hey, RJ, I missed your live stream too. Did we both miss your live stream? It happens. So we'll see what happens with Fender. You know what? Just even the fact that they issued a statement is kind of interesting. A lot of companies are just, yeah, we don't talk about litigation. We don't talk about anything like that, and they're just completely silent. Exactly. Don't shit the bed. Look, it's a pretty low bar. Yeah, play authentic, all right. Well, it kind of is. It kind of is their play authentic, because they're basically saying, if you're not us, we don't want you to make any guitars. There's just so many. Like I said, Kramer. I mean, that brand, it was around in the early 80s. So many of these brands, I mean, it's literally been 50 years of copies. Copies came out pretty much about 20 years after the Strat. They should have jumped on that shit then, but they didn't. And they didn't even get around to the whole trademark thing until they saw the power that Gibson had with their trademark stuff. Gibson trademarked all their outline shapes, and they've successfully gone after competitors. Fender tried the same thing in 2009, and the court said, no, the Strat is kind of a generic electric guitar body at this point because you've allowed so many copies for so many years. Therefore, no. The guitar isn't necessarily associated with just Fender at this point. So they were denied trade dress, trademark, anything like that, because they weren't the only one in commerce. So now they're trying this new way, copyright. But like I said, on a useful article like a guitar, there's all kinds of rules about registration and, like, what can be, you know what I'm saying? Like, there can be very close matches to it because you're still a freaking guitar. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. But it does seem like Fender's looking to get this adjudicated at some point. And they're just going to pay the money to go through and see, what do they got to lose? Right? It's a little John Mayer. Yeah. Was there a sonic boom in Boston this afternoon? There was. There was a, I didn't hear it, but a lot of my friends heard it. It was an exploding meteor. Right. That's John Mayer. Don't ask me the song, I have no idea. Yeah, kind of. It's like copywriting the shape of an acoustic, like a dreadnought. Trust me, firms would if they thought they could get away with it. Nothing like a government-sanctioned monopoly over anything you've created. Just copy the PRS headstock. Well, that's the one thing that courts have consistently held to be the unique part of the guitar and trademarkable, because it's not as functional, right? The shape of the headstock. Now, there have been companies that swear they own certain things, like I think Music Man says they own 4/2. That's probably a very, very weak trademark. Because it is functional in some way, and the more functional something is, you're supposed to get a patent, but they really can't get a patent because it's what they would call obvious or something. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so gets into like a weird area, but the headstock is generally considered unique. So, when you talk about like choices on the design of an instrument, well, it kind of looks like an acoustic guitar, but on the bottom there's a cutaway. It's our unique cutaway. Well, why did you cut away? Why did you cut away there? Why not, go up to where the body, attaches, like up here? Why cut this part away? And they're like, it's just a unique look. It's not. It's like, well, no, it's so I can get up into the upper frets, right? So if I had a single cut, you wouldn't put the cutaway on this side and not on this side, right? Because it's functional, right? It's functional in some way. Again, we talked about it, the volume knob. If you can put it anyway, just put it on the headstock. But those are all functional items, right? You can't say, I own the copyright to putting an output jack on the side of the body of a guitar, right? At some point, it gets a little stupid what people want to get protection on. Again, Fender probably would have had protection on the exact look of the Fender guitar had they just enforced their rights, early on. But, Fender was in goddamn free fall in 1980 when all those copies were coming out. And CBS didn't want to sink any money into Fender. And they didn't. Fender was almost bankrupt in like 1984. The people that worked there sort of banded together and found a way to sort of buy the company back off of CBS. And then every guitar in Fender was made in Japan in 1985. There was nothing made in the U.S. in 1985. That was the big transition year. It was the year I started working at the music store. And they had no new Fenders that weren't made in Japan. It was all what they would call the Boxer series now, which were nice guitars. I think all made by Fujigen. And then 1986, they came out with, I think, the 57, 57 Strat, the 62 Strat, and the 52 Tele. And it was just like a nod to all their... You could only get those guitars, like to start. They were ramping up production. And then finally, 87 was really their big relaunch. And they came out with the American Standard. And they came out with the Plus, and then the Ultra. Right? They had all these, like... new lines, and they started to doing artists. They had the Stevie Ray model all of a sudden. That probably came in like 91, 92. Well, but then about like 4 or 5 years. I think 91. They had like an SRV model. They always had the Clapton model. We always had the Clapton signature model. So, that came later. That came in like 87, 88, 89. Hippie jam band? Maybe. I could see it being in any sort of funk band, They really screwed the pooch. Yeah, bad for their image. It does seem to be overwhelmingly negative, from what I'm seeing. It's not like they don't have supporters. You do see occasional comments, come up with your own damn design. Yeah, but you could also wag a finger and say, enforce your design. And that's what happens, man. That's what happens. When Kentucky Fried Chicken sort of launched as KFC, they didn't like the name Fried in their name, wanted to get rid of that. Everything was moving towards acronyms. So, just like, Federal Express became FedEx, Kentucky Fried Chicken became KFC. And some people immediately brought a case in the patent office saying Kentucky Fried Chicken is now public domain. They have abandoned the name. And Kentucky Fried Chicken, KFC, had to fight back and say, no, we put it on a few things. And they would quietly put Kentucky Fried Chicken on a few items that they had, like the corner of a napkin, right? Or something. They would do something with it just to basically say, no, we didn't abandon it. But there was a move by people out there to say the name is now public domain and any trademarks are invalid. And KFC had to fight back. No, people will forget at some point, but you have to wonder if they, if they're going to suffer at least some short-term damage. It's like you just bought this company, you're trying to pull in money. Maybe this will be a money maker for them, but I could see it also. It's not set in stone. I very much see it becoming a money taker, that they put all these, what could be millions of dollars, into trying to protect this IP, only to find out there's nothing to protect. And that one case was a bit of an anomaly. And you've basically done a big overreach with what was a very narrow decision in a very narrow jurisdiction. This has been abandoned. Can we open a Dunkin' Donuts? Did they totally abandon it? I don't think so. With D&D? I don't think so. I don't think that I'll bet if you looked, they would have something that would reference it. Right? Instead of dunks, I don't know. But yeah, in theory, you could try to do it, but I suspect, they're onto it, and so they sort of protect that IP. I'm sure Fender will be okay, but not without a little bit of short-term pain. Possibly, maybe not. But the brand has been a bit of a pariah. Yeah, if anything, it might raise PRS's profile. A little sympathy purchasing. I didn't hear the boom. I admit, a bunch of my friends heard it, and a friend of mine said his house shook, but I didn't hear it. But it was rainy here. I wasn't outside. Maybe if I was out in the yard, I would have heard it. But I didn't hear anything. You wish you owned a Silver Sky? I've played the regular Silver Sky, the like $2,000 model, and I played the SE model. They were both really nice. I remember being really impressed with that SE model, and again, it might have been just the fact that I was a little bit of low expectations. Or when everyone tell you a movie really sucks, and then you see it, you're like, oh, you know what? It wasn't that bad, right? It's the the soft bigotry of low expectations. You're like, nah, it wasn't that bad, right? So it might have been that, but I really like that SE, that PRS Silver Sky SE. That was nice. I like the neck profile on it. Those are a little narrow side to side, which I kind of like. 42 millimeter, maybe even slightly less than 42. I'd have to double check again. How far am I from Marlboro? Oh, geez, I'm a haul from there. I'm probably at least 30 minutes. They think that that it exploded over the water, like pretty much right in not Boston Harbor, but pretty much like Massachusetts Bay. Irish Pilot says, I found PRSSEs are just good guitars, nothing special, but quality seems to be consistent, Korean quality. The one I played, I thought I thought the pickup sounded really good in it. I'm talking about the Silver Sky. I've had a few. I had the NF3. I did like very expensive piezo, like hollow body, which was like, maxed out for like, flame maple and, all kinds of stuff. It was an expensive guitar. It was like a $1,600 guitar or something like that. But the Silver Sky, like half that money, at least at the time. And I liked it. I like that. I remember saying, like, I really like the sound of these frickin' pickups. They sound really good. Boston Boom sounds like a Suno tune, sure. Yeah, Cape Cod Bay was the suspected area. Yeah. I thought it was like over the water, yeah. You're going to buy a B-Bender telly, but now you might hold off a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. It's a little bit of a, what did we had a Boston mayor say, it's like an Alcatraz around my neck. Never change. Sure. The old PRS sissies are made. Are they in Indonesia now? Or are they still in Korea? I forget. I forget where that Silver Sky was made. Meteor about 3 feet wide. Wow, that's pretty big. That's a chunky boy. You don't want that hitting the ground. But I'm sure it's coming in, and the air was thick around here today. It was raining. So you start to hit that kind of friction, and you are heating up fast. Do you think Fender will lose more money on the negative reaction than anticipated? Probably more than they anticipated. I think we could. That might be true. And maybe in the short term. Oh yeah, I think that they probably thought there'd be some short term, but they probably are maybe a little surprised at the depth of the negative reaction. I mean, like every YouTuber on the planet has a freaking video out about it, and like I said, I don't see a ton of people out there defending Fender on this, although there are some, but it seems to be overwhelmingly, negative vibes on Fender. That has a way of hurting sales, so we'll see. Maybe not. Hard fans don't really care, so they're like, whatever. Exactly. Meteor can mess up your whole day. Right. It's the Fender Defenders. Did I see the Cars in the early days in Boston? I did. I saw the Cars in 1981? It was on the Panorama tour. I think that was 81. And it was good. My friend lied and said we had a ride. We did have a ride home, or my dad was picking us up. I forget now. We had a ride back, but we didn't have a ride in. We get down the end of the street. My friend was like, "Yeah, we don't have a ride. We're walking to the bus." I was like, "Because we're going to take the train in from Forest Hills." I was like, "Oh, okay." And so we wound up taking the train in and going up to the garden, and then I think we had a ride back. Yeah, Living Color. So, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I suspect it lingers on for a while because Fender's sort of in deep. I mean, they've sort of like, it's a little bit of, what would they call that? Sunk cost fallacy, right? That they would really get out of it if they hadn't sunk so much into it already. So now if you get out, it looks even worse than if you, like, keep going with it. So I think there's a little bit of sunk costs going in here. And we will see. I suspect it will take a while before there's any sort of adjudication on the merits in the states. Even if it was filed, a lawsuit probably wouldn't come for like at least a year, right? I mean, these things take time. There's a lot of threats and things like that. Then they have to weigh whether they really want to actually sue. And then, because there's a lot of risk associated with that. Because you could get it just like they did with the trademark. They found out they had a ruling that was dead set against them. So, you have to weigh those risks. But I think at this point, they're like, we have nothing to lose. We have everything to gain. So we might as well just sue and see where we stand. It would take a good 18 months because well, maybe not, because if they sue, let's say they sued within a year, you could get a motion to dismiss probably in front of a judge within like 3 months, usually within 90 days or so. You just file a motion to dismiss. It goes back and forth, answers and replies to replies, trying to get the last word in. And then you go and see what the judge says about just dismissing it outright. And if that doesn't happen, then you have to file an answer, and then you can try to move towards some sort of like a summary judgment. But then you can get discovery, and that's what gets expensive. Depositions, right? Having to give up information. How many Silver Skies did you sell? So, we can assess our damages. So, those are all things that weigh towards, having a settlement. So, but you never know. But I suspect it would take at least 2 to 3 years before this got really sort of any adjudication of any merit. That case with Gibson started in 2013, and I want to say it concluded in 2018, I think. It was a 5 years of litigation before they finally got to trial. And then, like, literally 48 hours later, settled. The guy that beat Fender last time, so in the 2009 case, that long ago, is representing someone in this case. They know the angles, because I've already done a lot of research on it. So we will see. The total goddamn, it's someone aptly put it, it's civil war. It's guitar on guitar crime. Pirelli tires that track all your biometrics, but there's no biometric. What do you mean? They like just track where you go? Oh, man. So, that's kind of all I got. Had a couple of graduations this week. My son's graduation. My daughter's graduation was the prior week, but we just had my son's graduation. That was nice. Had a really good seat. Kind of really lucked out. Oh, it was good. Getting a little windy when we were in there. We were under a tent. I was like, getting a little worried. Fender's dead to you, just getting a little too creepy. Yeah, you know, there's definitely some animosity towards him right now. It feels all unnecessary. What are you so worried about? Why don't you act like a... You know what? You can act like a man. Would it be cool if THU was available in hardware and physical? You know, I don't know if they want to do that. Some companies, when they've gone to the hardware market, now it's worked out for IK Multimedia, but not all of them are big hits. I think of like Isotope. Isotope was all software, and they came out with like this little hardware recorder. And, you know, it was kind of a flop for them. Even though they were, you know, it used a lot of their amazing software capabilities for like recording and mixing and, you know, setting up rooms. And there was all kinds of, I guess, internal debates about how to set it up to record. And they finally went with like a condenser mic, a built-in condenser mic, and then a way to plug in. But a lot of people felt like it needed like 4 inputs, and it kind of bombed. And they became a takeover target, and they were taken over by Isotope. Was bought by who? I want to say Native Instruments, who just was rescued by, I want to say, is it In Music? The basically the people that own Akai, they're buying it. It's just all a big shit show out there right now. I think Native Instruments was going under because they had expanded out very quickly, and I think they bought Isotope and spent all this money. And they closed they had a Cambridge, Mass office, and they wound up closing that, which was such a bummer because I knew so many people over there. And now Native Instruments themselves are being bought on a fire sale because they're like bankrupt. Crazy. Graduation, yeah. You know, it's nice. It's you know, you see them all young. They're all excited. And, you know, you remember back. Yeah, In Music, yeah. I think that's who wound up buying them up. Yeah, I graduated college 34 years ago. Right? Yeah. Graduated in 92. I am a little shocked that Fender decided they were going to go after PRS. Because it's not an exact, there's so many other brands that have like a, I mean, even Donner has like an exact sort of, different headstock, of course, but an exact body copy. And maybe they did send something to Donner, but, you know what I'm saying? It's like, the PRS is like, not what you would call, again, it feels like they're trying to test the law. Let's see if they can get some sort of declaration. Native Instruments isn't merging within Music Brands, and Music Brands is snatching them up in a bankruptcy sale. It's an outright purchase. Yeah, they have THU on iPad. That's probably the closest you can get. Right? You can get it for your iPad, and I don't think they do an Android version because Android can't get their shit together. On paper, Android should have like 2 to 3 milliseconds of delay tops. They have a whole system for like low latency. They can't get it freaking implemented. You know, that's where Apple has such an advantage because they do the hardware and the software. Apple has got their latency down to a couple of milliseconds, like 2 to 3 milliseconds. That's perfect. You think PRS will eat Fender for breakfast? Maybe. We'll see. Born in 87. Man, I was 21. Yeah, and your coworkers call you old, right? Yeah, no, it happens. Well, here's what happens. For the longest time, you're like the youngest of the group. That's what I was. Like everyone else was like older than me. And then I was pretty much the same age, and now I am definitely older than everyone in the freaking group. They're all younger than me. Yeah, Paul will testify, and then Fender will dismiss the case halfway through his talking just to get him to shut up. They're like, okay, all right, we get it. Blah, 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 Ted McCarty, blah, 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 Ted McCarty, blah, blah. No one really gets old if you understand reality. Yeah, my back didn't get the memo. What kind of work do I do? Well, lately it's mostly IT work. And of course, YouTube. Yeah, no, Paul is a talker. Oh, life is short. You know who was talking about that recently? Paul Stanley. He goes, you know, they say life is short. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. He goes, but then all of a sudden you are there. Now all of a sudden you really are older. And you're like, wow, that did seem to go by fast. It happens. You work from home or office? I work from home now. God, I had an office for years, but it's unnecessary overhead. I have the same. I'm not really expanding my base. I got the same people. In fact, I had one client over near where my son was going to school. So when I was looking at it on the map, I said, "Oh my God, it's right down the street from this from this client I've been working for since, 2012. You have your own business? Yeah. I pretty much work for myself. Which, the main thing that sucks about that is health insurance. It's mandatory in my state, and that can get freaking. Who was talking about that recently was Greg Koch. He said, I had income streams coming all over the place. I was touring, with my band, and I had a whole bunch of lesson stuff out there, and I had a whole. He's like, I was doing all this work for Fender, and he goes, I was really had all these multiple income streams. And he said, he goes, we had no insurance. We had to pay outright for insurance. He said, which was so friggin' expensive for a family. And he goes, at one point, I think when his kids were sort of teenagers or young, early tweens or teens, his wife, maybe tweens, his wife got a job that had full benefits. And he's like, it was like the second coming. Because now he didn't have to expend all that cash every single month on friggin' health insurance. He's like, so it was just unbelievable. How much of a difference that made in their monthly cash flow, because they didn't have to push that out. Plus, she was taking money home, so not only is they get full health coverage, but plus adding money, it was a massive swing in what they had for cash flow. And I get it. I know a lot of people that work for themselves, and they're paying for a family of four, they're paying I'd have to think about this. They're paying about $30,000 a year for health insurance. It's $2,700 a month. Right? I'd have to get a calculator here. Let's assume $2,700 a month times 12 months. Yeah, $32,000. That's just on health insurance. That doesn't include your mortgage, your utilities, gas, food. And don't forget friggin' copays. Yeah. So, what winds up happening is that you, now you can go to the state and actually get it, but it depends on how much money you make. Right? It's you can get it pretty cheap, but you got to be pretty frickin' broke. So, most people just aren't that broke. And when you look at the poverty line, it's so friggin' crazy low. What's the poverty line? They're $11,000 a year for a family of four. You're like, well, yeah, that's pretty stupid friggin' low. In my state, it's $11,000 a month. And you're broke. I turned 65 and get Medicare. I've been thinking about that lately. I just turned 60. I'm probably gonna file early. Because they say if you don't file early, it would take you, with the extra money you earn, if I file at 67, I wouldn't break even until I'm 80. I'm not guaranteed I'm going to 80. So they're like, if you don't think you're going to make it to 80, take it early. Exactly, 32,000 a year just to say you're not even covered, you know? Retired and nearly even had VA. That's what my dad has. My dad's full VA, but my mom isn't. But she has like all kinds of supplemental, you know, to go along with the Medicare. So they're kind of covered, I think. Your break even was just over 11 years, yeah. So I think I'm going to go early. If you don't spend it, they basically say it depends on how interest rates are going. Because if you don't spend it, if you just throw it in like a CD, you can actually do pretty well. Oh no, age sneaks up real fast. I just look at my father-in-law, and you know he just passed recently, and just thinking about how quickly he deteriorated towards the end. So it happens. You waited until 70 to claim, yeah. So you'll max out, but it's not much more than the other one. So I think one if you go until 67, if you took it early, you break even at 80. I think if you wait until 70, because it's only 3 years later instead of 5 years later, right? Right, so a total of 8 years. You break even at like 82 or 83, something like that. He was 90. She was 89. He would be 90 tomorrow at his celebration of life. Tomorrow would have been his 90th birthday, and he wanted to try to make it to 92, but his body just let him down. He couldn't make it. Unlike my dad, who's freaking 92 and going strong. Retirement talk, yeah. Add it to the pile. I think it affects a lot of us more than we'd like to admit. He lived longer than most people, and you said he went quick. Not really. Yeah, you know, he was more mobile, like, not that long, because I was taking him to doctor's appointments, and you know, I was taking him to appointments, and he was walking in, but then he was having more and more trouble walking, and they had, you know, people coming and help him get around. His mobility was kind of really going down, and then really, I think what hurt him was I think he had a fall. We're pretty sure he had a fall in the bathroom too, which is the worst because it's all hard surfaces, you know, and that was sort of the beginning of the end. Oh, thank you, Robert. Exactly. He lived to 90. It's like we should all be so lucky. He missed his 90th by about 90 days. So we will see. Should be quite a few people tomorrow. It'll be like I said, like 30, maybe 35 tops. But still pretty good. Yeah, exactly. Don't fall. When you get old, my dad said that the people at the VA told them that. They're like, do not fall. There's no cure in that. If you have a hard fall, it could be fatal, and there's nothing we can do. So don't fall. He's like, all right. You call this steamed mussels? I actually had steamed mussels recently. Freaking love mussels. Where did we go? And I got this. Yeah, after my daughter's graduation, we went to Legal Seafood, and I got the mussels to start. Nice little mussel appetizer. Good with the broth and the toasted points. Love it. I'm sorry to hear, Matt. Mom just passed away. She was 86. Yeah, exactly. Stay off the friggin' moped. Not a good idea. Pretty much since my last moped crash, I have not gone on a moped. I was pretty much done with them then. AI will design a suit that will fill with air if it detects falling. Yeah. No, I very rarely get lobster. I might get like a lobster roll, but lobster's a lot of freaking work. I was never crazy about, just straight up like baked stuffed lobster or like a steamed lobster. But my brother-in-law got, what did he get? He got the rainbow trout. And, damn, he won. That rainbow trout looked freaking amazing. I was like, oh, wow, that's way better. I don't even remember what I got. It was that lame. What did I get? I don't know. We've been out a few times recently. But that rainbow trout he got, that's all I can remember. I was like, damn, that's really nice. I've been out ordered. I've been totally out ordered. Halibut, just for the halibut. Remember the moped story? Oh, the moped story. Live in infamy. My frickin' leg. I tell you, I was up at my father-in-law's yesterday, and again, just scraping some peeling paint, a little bit of peeling paint, very little area, but I just scraping that and throwing up a little bit of touch-up paint, which already it looks like infinitely better than it did. I'm not even close to being done. I have to put at least one, probably two more coats of paint, and then I was driving home. I'm on the highway, of course, and something in my right eye, must have been on my eyelash or something, like gets in my eye. And I'm like, oh, Jesus. And I'm like on the highway. And I'm like taking my glasses off. I can't, and I'm like rubbing my eye. I'm like, oh, God. Doing like 80 miles an hour. Trying to like, hold on. What's in my freaking eye here? And I came home. I wound up coming home, and I have some of those, what do they call those? Like lubricated eye drops, like Evertears or something like that. If your eyes feel dry, you can just squirt some in there, refresh your eyes. I was like flushing it out. Could not get that friggin' thing. I don't know what was in there. And it was sort of there for most of yesterday, and then it seemed to have come out overnight. I couldn't feel it this morning. I was friggin' like losing my mind. Well, mopeds really took off in the early 80s because the gas prices were so friggin' high that people wanted a way to drive around on, like, you know, $2 worth of gas. And mopeds were it. There was an explosion in mopeds. And the starting right around 79, 80, 81, gas prices were freaking sky high. By 1987, gas prices are at like record lows. And right, it sort of like lost its appeal. Maybe an e-bike. I think I'm staying off bikes. I won't even go on a friggin' ladder. Yeah, you got 3 bikes now, speaker? I thought you just had the one. Yeah, exactly. 100 miles per gallon was a great incentive. Kind of was. People did switch to mopeds a little bit back then because it was a way to sort of get around the gas crunch. Who's that? Is that Buddy? I think that's Buddy. Is he jumping up or is he looking? That's Buddy. What are you doing, bud man? It's like I'm out of here. Lame. Not a big fan of ladders either. Yeah, I think my ladder days are over. That's where it's speaker. You got to get over here. I gotta move that camera. I'm looking at the back end of a bush. I got one camera that when I took that fencing down on the front of the house, I moved that camera because I had no place to put it. I got to get that camera back up. It's like one of my 4 cameras is like literally looking at the ass end of a friggin' spruce. Pretty lame. Yeah, you know. Okay, good. We'll get you out here. We'll get you up there. I'm not going up there. No way. I'll be friggin'... I'll step on the ladder. I'll be falling right over. I'm so friggin' bad. Guy riding with a GoPro from Colorado Springs to Denver showing you could do it in a half an hour. Average speed 90 plus. Yeah, if you're cranking. Exactly, I'm a groundhog, not a skyhawk. Exactly. No ladders. Well, as you get older, it does, you know, a shorter and shorter fall just does like really bad damage. So when you're young, you could fall off a small roof and your bones aren't nearly as brittle. When you get older and your bones just get more and more brittle. You know, even a fall of like 2 feet off the ground, unless you're like falling on concrete, you'd almost certainly break something. You know, falling onto grass, you might not, but it's like, you know, you can't take it. You can't take, you know, sudden shocks to the bones. They wind up breaking. Falls from ladders and roofs, number 1 cause of homeowner death and injury. Yeah, I'm sure. Because that shit's expensive. To call somebody here to do something, it's like, it's so friggin' expensive. The people are like, how bad can it be? I just go, I'm falling. You know, you're on the friggin' ground. You think 5 guys should cover? There you go. I'll take you over to 5 guys. At the very least, 4 guys. All right? I'm just saying. 4 guys minimum. Yeah, joint damage is more likely too. Yeah, hyperextension. Be knocking the friggin' teeth out of my mouth. All right. I just fell just right on a rock. You know, it's like I can imagine all kinds of freaking disasters. You install permanent Christmas lights. There you go. You know, my neighbor had that. I used to notice it in the summer. I said, Jesus, Christmas lights are still up. He's like, yeah, I put them up once 20 years ago. And I just plug them in every Christmas. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Yeah, exactly. It's not the fall that hurts you. It's the sudden stop. Just did your bathroom. You won't be buying a guitar gear for a while. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at some guitar gear recently, but, I'll tell you why. Guitar Center was doing on used guitars, maybe it was for like a week or two, an extra 10% off any guitar $4.99 and above. So, you look, you see, is there anything I've been looking at, and maybe you find one for good price, and then with the extra 10% off, it's even a better price, but I didn't see anything, nothing. I couldn't find anything that was like knocking me out, so I passed. Oh, and you fall onto one of the garden weezer tiller things. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, sounds spiky. Yeah, you're paying for the risk, not the labor. But you watch, if they fell on my property, they're probably going after my friggin' homeowner's account because they're like, oh, yeah, I actually didn't have insurance. So somebody's got to pay for my injuries. You watch. Turns out they thought they had insurance. Uh-huh. You'd have to hire somebody that's really expensive to make sure you had insurance. Yeah, that sounds painful. Jumped from the roof and your sister face planted first, all right on the sidewalk. When I was at my grandfather's farm up in Canada, he had the barn door upstairs that opened, and then below was like all this grass, really tall grass. And I jumped from the top down there, down to the grass, landed no problem at all. My grandfather almost shit himself. He saw the whole thing. And I guess there were some rocks down there. You're very lucky you missed these rocks. I'm like, it's fine. It's tall grass. It's all fine. But I remember jumping out of there. And my grandfather, losing his goddamn mind. Yeah, there's a scary amount of contractors out there with under-the-table employees and no insurance. Absolutely. Absolutely. My dad got, the VA was going to pay towards putting a new bathroom in downstairs to allow for a walk-in, or not a walk-in tub, just a shower you could sit. So you wouldn't have to step over anything. Not that he even has to now. He's got one of those ones that has the door on the side. I don't know. He just likes to get free shit out of the VA. So they were going to do it, but the guy he wants to use, the guy who did 2 of his bathrooms and my bathroom upstairs, he's not licensed, right? He's one of those guys. He does outstanding work, I have to say. That dude's tile cutting skills, his tile work. He when he was doing my bathroom, this was, 9 years ago now, I think. It was 9 years ago. When he was doing that, he said, if you want, I can put a new, threshold in, go, for the door. Go get a piece of marble, and I'll cut the marble, and we'll put the marble threshold in. He cut that freaking marble threshold so perfectly. I was like, oh my God, because I know my house, those, it's not like he undershot it and then filled it in with some goop or anything. He cut that freaking thing so precisely. I couldn't believe it. Because I said, yeah, I'll go. And I went over to Home Depot and I bought a slab of marble. And I brought it back. He goes, yeah, okay, I'll cut it. I'll put it in. I could not believe it. It was the dude. I mean, skills I don't have. He cut that so freaking good. I was like, oh my god, I am outclassed. And then even like when they were doing like the ceiling work, just the taping work they did on those seams, I'm like, boy, that is way better than anything I could ever do. But he doesn't have the licenses, right? He's just a general tile guy. So he didn't have the electrician's license. He didn't have the, which is work that needed to be done on that bathroom. It wasn't just getting tile work done. Didn't have like the plumber's license, but his work is so friggin' good. He just doesn't have the licenses, so the VA won't pay for it because they're like, nope, it's got to be licensed. So my dad's all bummed. He's like, I might just pay for it. Mother just did the walk-in shower thing. She's 92. Yeah, it's like what they want to do, but he has like one of those walk-in tubs. I'm like, well, you already did this. You did this like 7 years ago. You know, you already did this. And he's like, oh, it's different. It's like a shower. And he just wants free shit. He can't wait to get something for nothing. The thing is, I think the VA was going to pay like $6,500. For $6,500, that guy who did his last two bathrooms here, and the guy who did my bathroom, he would just do it. They would cover the whole thing, but they won't let him hire him. So if he has to hire somebody to do it, they want like $50,000. And so they're like, and the government will give you $6,500 towards the $50,000 thing. So my dad's like, yeah, I'm not doing that. He's like, the money gets stupid expensive. You miss having the shower. So I think my dad's is the stupid whirlpool tub. You know what I'm saying? In other words, you walk in, you close the freaking door. It's got a built-in like seat. It's got like jets everywhere. And you can just sit there and let the jets like power wash your freaking body. I'm like, what are you doing? You already have this. He's like, oh no. They put a whole new shower in. It's all free. I'm like, okay. He just wants free. He just wants it because it's freaking free. He's like, yeah, free is free. I'm like, yeah, but you just did all this. What are you doing? Tony says, hey dudes, new guitar day. Just back from the music shop. Got first PRS Custom 24 top artist package. Nice. Going artist. So I was thinking like if I had like say $4 or $5 grand to spend, what would I get? You know, for guitars. I was looking over Guitar Center used and say, you know, what would I get a custom shop Strat, or would I get a PRS? Would I get a Gibson? You know, what kind of guitar? I swear I'm leaning towards kind of like what you did. I was leaning towards like in terms of just like wow factor for looks, like a nice high-end PRS, something that's got, you know, a 10 top, maybe the artist package as well, something that's just fully decked out, and, you know, it just looks expensive at the very least, and besides being expensive. But I was leaning kind of towards PRS. I really was. I was like, I think if I had to spend like, let's say 4 to 5 thousand on a guitar, I might be going PRS. Used, of course. I can't buy new guitars unless absolutely. I have purchased new guitars, but I do so reluctantly. Yeah, you were playing guitar. Yeah, I thought it was, well, you know what? It happens. You get a new guitar, you get all into it, start playing, you're like, damn, I like this guitar. It happens. Yeah, I'd probably get a nice PRS. And I think I like the one you have, the Custom 24, because that has the pattern thin neck, versus like the pattern vintage or the pattern wide. I think I like the pattern thin. I think that's like my preferred neck on the PRS guitars. But man, they can make tops that are just amazing, like really really nice eye candy. And then with some of their guitars, and it's rare, but they're still out there. You can get exotic woods, even like Brazilian rosewood fretboards, if you're willing to pay for it. So they do some nice stuff, nice touches. And then the other thing is I got my PRS out recently, and I was just noticing it's a really good looking guitar. I forget how much. I rarely play it just because it's always in its case, because I keep my nice guitars up on racks, in cases, just in case we flood down here. So all my guitars that are in cases are up on a rack. In fact, that was the whole point of Speaker helping me build that rack in the back, was to just get more and more guitars like up off the floor. And it's been work. What a godsend that rack has been. I got that thing freaking loaded. It's really, really worked out. It has made a huge freaking difference. In fact, I would have been screwed if I hadn't built that rack. Not screwed, but it would have gone very differently trying to replace that hot water heater, because I had no place to put that crap. But the back room was all cleared out because I had just built the rack. So all the stuff from the back room where the water heater is, I was able to throw into the back room where the guitar rack is, so we could put the new water heater in. So that it really freaking worked out. But I was playing that PRS recently, and I was like, you know what? I really like this guitar. I should play this more often. And as I was looking at it, I was like, am I buying a second PRS? Can I get a second one, number 2? Maybe. Yeah, the news story, 3-foot meteor, about 75,000 miles per hour. Yeah, sounds about right. Was my wife driving? If Fender keeps it up, he might just get one of the birdie guitars after all. Yeah. Yeah. That's what happens. People like to root for the underdog, and it'll feel like, Fender's the big mean corporation, and PRS is just a, oh shucks, little guy trying to get by, what with their Brazilian rosewood fretboards and all. Oh shucks. Have a good one, Terry. Staring at the PRS, kind of drooling. Yeah, no, I tell you, they are eye candy. It's a good-looking guitar. They really are. Yeah, the sump pump's been working great, actually. I found that out when I was draining the hot water heater, because it's so freaking heavy, full of water, that before we could roll it out of here and get it up the stairs out into the backyard, had to pretty much drain it. Or it's just like it's so stupid friggin' heavy to try to move it. You got to drain it out. So I drained it overnight down into the sump pump, and for those first ones, man, ka-choo! Getting those empty in that sump. I'll tell you, it's good. It's been pretty damn good. Grabbed a Crybaby that has the Iron Maiden. Oh, Killer's Eddie graphic? Oh, that's nice. Another 600. Yikes. That better be the best friggin' wah pedal I ever heard. Yikes. That's up there. That feels like 4 times too much. Have a good one, speaker. Yeah, we'll be we hitting up the and then a week from Monday is the triumphant return of Guitar of the Week. I've had all those guitars sitting over here for this whole time, and I think I know what I'm doing for guitar number 1. I think I've picked it out. So I'm looking forward to that. Again, it'll be a week from tomorrow. Not tomorrow. I mean, Monday. Not Monday. We're still on vacay for 1 more week. I know, 600. Yay. The land of the gouge. Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be about 600. What? Of course, a Fender Stratocaster. Yeah. I do have a Fender guitar in this last round. It's not a Strat, but it is a Fender. And a Jackson. I got to do one of them because, they're not sending me guitars, so I blow off doing the video. So at the very least, I'm going to do that Jackson. But the Fender, we'll see. We'll see how I'll save that one to last and see how the sentiment's going. But that'll be weeks from now, like a good 3 weeks from now. We'll see how it's going, but right now it's a bit of a toxic brand. I mean, half the comments are going to be like very negative, having nothing to do with the video other than the fact that it's covering a Fender product. So it's crazy. All right, guys, it is 9 p.m. I'm off. You guys have a wonderful week. We will do it all again in a week. And there you have it. No, you rock. I'll give you all the details about the chicken piccata from tomorrow's celebration of life. Really looking forward to that piccata. All right, you guys have a wonderful week. No videos this week. I'm on vacay for another week, and but I will be back next Saturday. We'll do it all again, and then we can start talking. We will ease our way back in to Guitar of the Week starting June 8th, and we'll go from there. All right, no, you rock. I'm off. You guys have a wonderful week. See you next week.